Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Radical Conservatism by the Imperator, AMORC. An article taken from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 31, Number 2, February 1953. The Thought of the Month, Radical Conservatism by the Imperator of AMORC. Whatever men conceive as good, they will staunchly defend. The good is that which they think of contributing in some way to their benefit. Thus, every individual, normal in his thinking and living, consciously endeavors to increase the content of what is good to him. He further strives to oppose all activities or circumstances which, in his opinion, threaten the security of that good. When that which men cherish has been subject to periodic attack, and they fear the loss of it, they become especially sensitive to any thoughts or actions which are uncommon. They believe they see in the unusual, or that which deviates from the ordinary, a probable menace to their welfare. This attitude upon the part of men, and even of a whole society, is generally known as conservatism. In its less extreme form, it is logical and advantageous. It can be identified with caution. What men have done and what they have is a matter of experience. Such matters are empirical, tangible, and removed from the field of speculation. If one finds that what he has or what he has aspired to is advantageous, such constitutes a positive knowledge. Instinctive prudence, therefore, will cause men to hesitate to abandon that which appears to them to be so self-evident in its content. That which we think has proved itself to us, at least for the time, whether that be a month or a century, becomes the very foundation of our personal security and often that of society as well. How do men gain those things or knowledge which they come to believe must be conserved? It is not by venturing into life. Only those who come to grips with the vicissitudes of life can wrest from them those elements which they may eventually evaluate as worthy of conserving. And a venture into the experiences of life need not be a blind sallying forth. It can be a thoughtful and intelligent approach to new realms of activity, whether mental, economic, social, or physical. The new, the different, is not necessarily either wrong or dangerous. That which men have found to be good is not wholly or absolutely so. There is nothing which man has achieved or has come to know that is perfect. There is no standard of which we know that further and perhaps different experience could not refine and improve. There is nothing which is to human advantage that is beyond the possibility of further expansion. The conservative too often reasons that the only progress he should make is along the lines of quantity, that is, adding to whatever he believes best. By this thinking, he confines all his personal efforts to a single and often well-worn channel. Men arrive at a concept of what is superior or best by experiencing contraries. Unless we have the opportunity of reacting to different functions or circumstances, we cannot determine what may be really worthy of conserving. The conservative often husbands his ideas or ways of living, not because he knows by experience that they are the best, but often because he dislikes or fears a change. Many men are content with a degree of satisfaction that there may be that which extends what they consider excellent they do not know. Moreover, they are reluctant to risk the aggravation that may come from the expenditure of effort to determine whether there is anything more gratifying. There are multitudes of men who, under the pretext of conservatism, are merely satisfied to sink into a bog of continuous imperturbability. The very things which most of these conservatives avouch to be their very foundation of security and satisfaction have often came out of liberal thought. Yes, even from the previous radical departures from the conservational, some individual or group at some time dared to disturb his complacence in order to discover or develop what the conservative now enjoys. This is not a plea for what is ordinarily thought to be radicalism. Today, the common radical is one usually who advocates a complete rupture of all experience in certain fields of endeavor, regardless of consequences. He is so imbued with what frequently is nothing more than his speculations, that in his mind all existing factors and habitual thoughts are not only obsolete, but corrupt. Such radicalism in philosophic, politics, or otherwise is neither sound reasoning nor safe. The true radical, however, might be better termed the progressive. He is only radical in the sense that he will move out from the center of the circle of a fixed thought, at a radius to and beyond its periphery, if such is justified. He will completely depart from the accepted thought or way of doing things, if such can be proved superior. The intelligent radical is a human being. He is subject to the same basic likes and dislikes of human nature. All fundamental good and needs of security are recognized by him, as well as by the conservative. The radical, therefore, as in the case of the conservative, wants freedom of person and of thought and the right of opportunity, the security of home, family, and society. He wants physical and mental pleasures as well. His distinction is that he believes man has not as yet fully attained these things. He further thinks they may be acquired in somewhat different ways from the customary. He has conceived or experienced ways and means which revealed weakness in the accepted order, which he believes should be remedied. To condemn this type of mentality is to arrest all human thought and progress and to revert to inertia. There is no way of living under any society known to history that could not be improved upon. In democracy's name. Because the existing democratic political order in most of the Western world has been threatened by unprincipled and insidious attack, liberalism as well as conservatism is in jeopardy. A kind of hysteria has swept the minds of millions of persons in the democratic nations, most especially in the United States, because of a constant haranguing by certain political demagogues on how the traditional security of the individual is being jeopardized. Men are being made suspicious of every new concept in society and political relations, that which seeks to express a different viewpoint, to offer a constructive and beneficial criticism of the prevailing thought or practice is held up to scorn as a public menace. Every philosopher, every forward thinker who delineates any weakness in our political structure is derided as a destroyer of the security of society. In the name of democracy, a conception and a practice the West has long cherished, there is a growing tyranny and intolerance born out of this hysteria by being incited to an almost fanatical conservation of our ideals of freedom and equality. We are being forced into radical conservatism. Here I use the word radical to mean an unthinking, emotional behavior in being suspicious, even jealous of every thought which does not fall into the category of traditional concepts. We are mocking and corrupting the very freedom we seek to conserve. If this practice is allowed to continue, we shall find that we have conserved only the names of ideals, the original content of which has long since been lost to us. A banner carried in a crusade of intolerance and bigotry may well have the misleading word of freedom written upon it. Whenever men become dominated by emotion, swept by hysteria and fears, they are easily made the victims of that which has ulterior purposes. The new American policy of an exceptional screening of all those who seek to enter the United States as immigrants or as visitors can easily be abused. It could, as well, keep from these shores every liberal intellectual whose progressive thoughts conflict with the vested interest, or conflict with the religious sects that itself seeks domination in the United States. It could well keep from our land's foremost philosophers and scientists whose views are not hostile to American security, but which do challenge unprogressive orthodoxy in any form. History confirms that one of the most effectual ways found by an international religious sect to gain its end, a political domination of state or government, was to suppress or to restrict all intellectuals whose views and purposes were contrary to its own. In this we see the very destruction of one kind of freedom, which this extreme conservatism professes to be securing. We of the democratic world condemn the politics of communism and of any police state in liquidating those intellectuals who might inveigh against inhumanity and illogical theory. However, suppressing intellectuals who are sincere, constructive, but progressive in their views is but another form of execution. Are we to be guilty of it? One must be aware when he throws a boomerang that it may not return to strike him. This intolerance in the name of the ideals of democracy could destroy our institutions of learning and our cultural societies and fraternities. Let us avoid the serious ills of radical conservatism. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.